Krishna Prabhuji and Mataji, welcome to today's class. We have just finished chapter number 7, Knowledge of the Absolute, and today we'll continue with chapter 8, which is the second chapter of the part 2 of Bhagavad Gita, section 2 of Bhagavad Gita. We know first section had 6 chapters and second section also has 6 chapters. We have covered one chapter of second section. Now today we shall cover this 8th chapter, that is Bhagavad Gita, Attaining the Supreme. So before we start, let us pray to Shri Radha Gomiji. Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Om Agyana Timir Andhyasya Gyana Anjana Salakaya Sakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Satyanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupam Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Sa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saha Gana Raghu Vitan Tam सजीवं स अद्वैतं स अद्भुतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण सत्यन्न देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदं सह गणललिता श्री विशाखावितं च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांते नमस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यः कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानं पवनेभ्यो वैष्णवभ्यो नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण प्रभु जी.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. So we have just finished chapter number 7, and chapter number 7 from verse 26 to 30. The theme was bewilderment of living entity and his freedom through knowledge of Krishna. How we are disillusioned, and by knowing Krishna, how can we get liberation? So in the end of chapters, in fact, 7 was with 6 questions which were expressed by Arjuna, and those were Jara Maran Mokshasaya, Mam Ashita Yatantite, Te Brahma Tad Viduh Krishnam, Ad Adhyatmam Karma Chakhilam. First word was Brahma and the other was Adhyatma. And Adi Bhutam Adi Devam Mam Adi Yajnam Cha Ye Viduh Prayan Kale Apicha Mam Te Vidur Yukta Chetasa. So these words were used, and these words probably were not clearly understood by Arjuna. So in chapter 8, right at the beginning, he asks, in fact, 8 questions. 7 questions relate to Brahma, Jiva, Brahma, Karma, and Adhyatma, Adibhuta, Adi Yajna, Adi Daivam, and Prayad Kali. And the last was the Prayad Kali. That is, where does Adi Yajna reside in the body? And the 8th question was this Prayad Kali. That means how to remember you at the time of leaving this body or at the time of death. So, in fact, in 4 verses, Krishna replies 7 questions. And the 8th question of Prayad Kali, how to remember Krishna at the time of leaving body, then this is replied in this is subject matter of entire chapter 8. So we'll start. So we can see the continuity between the different chapters. As soon as Arjuna finds some confusion or he's not clear about, he immediately puts a question. So that is a quality of a Vaishnava. That whenever there is a spiritual inquiry, he puts to a person who is knowledgeable and who knows it. So this was chapter 7, we finished. Now in chapter 8, these are 6 sections. We'll cover 3 sections today, and then we move on to section 4, 5, and 6 tomorrow. Krishna's answers to Arjuna questions, that is up to 4. And 5 to 8, remembering Krishna at the time of death. Now, how to remember, that is the theme of verse number up to verse number 28. That is, in 20 verses, Lord is replying how to remember Krishna at the time. 8.9, 8.9 and 9 to 13 is remembering Krishna. The different methods of remembering Krishna are mentioned through meditation, through pure devotional service, and then of course realizing that material and spiritual worlds are different and glories of supreme abode, that is Goloka Vrindavana, and the supremacy of devotion in attaining that. Now we know this is Bhakti Yoga. These 6 chapters from chapter 7 to 12 are Bhakti Yoga. So supremacy again in six chapter also at the end, Lord said Bhakti Yoga is the supreme most. And in the chapter 7 again the same theme continued, and ultimately in this chapter also the devotional service is the best, or the Bhakti Yoga is the best. So Krishna in section 1, that is up to 4, Krishna answers to Arjuna's questions. Yes, Mataji. Priya Mataji, please continue.
Okay. Arjuna Ubasa, Kim Tad Brahma, Kim Adhyatmam, Kim Karma Purusottama, Adhibhutam Cha, Kim Proktam, Adhidevam, Kim Uchayate. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Hare Krishna.
This was, you can see there are many questions. What is Brahma first? What is self? That is Atma or soul. What are fruitive activities? That is karma. What is this material manifestation? That is Adibhuta. And what are the demigods? That is Adideva. Please explain to me. And the question is still continuing. Yes, Mataji, this one.
Adhi yajna katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham neo si nyatat mabhi. How does this Lord of Sacrifice live in the body, and in which part does he live, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Hare Krishna.
So, Adi Yagya, Adi Yajna, Katham Kovatra Dehi Asmin Madhusudana, Prayan Kalecha Katham, Yeyo Yasi, Nitya Niyat Atma Bhi, Niyat Atma Bhi. How does this Lord of Sacrifice live in this? So, in the earlier verse, he asked, what is Adi Yajna? He asked Brahma, what is Brahma? What is self? What are karma or fruitive activities? What are material manifestation, Adibhut, and what are demigods, Adideva? Then now he asks about Adi Yajna. Adi Yajna, what is Adi Yajna? Thereafter he says, at the Prayan Kali, that is how to remember you at the time of leaving the body or at the time of death. So these are 8 questions which have been asked by. Now Lord starts telling, this is what we discussed in 7th chapter, last 2 verses, 7.29, 7.30. These were the words technical words which Krishna had used, and Arjuna did not understand their interpretation or correct meaning. So he asked these questions at the beginning of chapter 8. So this is the continuity you can see here. And not only this, how to remember Krishna at the time of that, he talks about meditation, he talks about yoga, Mishrit Bhakti, and Kevalam Bhakti also. That is pure devotional service also in the last verse. So, Mataji, this slide you can also read thereafter, Chanda Mataji.
Okay.
These are the questions. Answers. Yeah.
Okay. Brahman, spirit, is the jiva, indestructible living entity. The
Adhyatma.
Are the actions leading to material body. Adhibhuta is the material manifestation, or this is the material nature. Adhideva, the supreme demigod, is the universal form which includes all demigods. Adhiyagna, the enjoyer of sacrifice, is the Paramatma. Where does Adi Yagna reside? In the heart of all. How to remember Krishna at the time of death? Practice remembrance throughout life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So these are the answer Krishna gave. First, let us take one by one. Brahman, the spirit or the soul. Then he asked, individual soul, that means living entity or the jiva is indestructible, that is aksharam. Why? Because we are not material body, we are soul, and the soul is eternal, it is indestructible. We have read this in chapter 2 also, that na hanite hanimani study, that body made material body may be destroyed, but the soul does not get destroyed. So it is indestructible. So Brahman is two. First is living entity and the other is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahman is used for him also. But that is differentiated by Parabrahma, as we call him. The second is Adhyatma, or the nature of the self, Jiva, or the the Swabhav, or the uh, eternal nature, which is carried from one form of life to another form of life with the soul. So soul has got a swabhav, soul has got a nature. So that is the adhyatma, which promotes soul to undertake some or other kind of activities. The third question he asked, what is karma, or work of fruitive activities? We know the fruitive activities are binding our soul like a rope, or the three modes of nature are binding our soul through a rope in the form of Buddha was compared to a rope. So when we perform fruitive activities or sakam karma, then the results of the sakam karma binds us to the next form of life, and we keep on entering and re-entering into the cycle of birth and death. So that is our karma or sakam karma, fruitive activities are the cause by which give us repeated this material body or repeated birth and death. Then Adi Bhuta, or material manifestation, the entire material nature or Prakriti, which is manifest by the lower energy or inferior energy of Lord Krishna, that is manifestation of Lord's internal lower energy or inferior energy, that is Adi Bhuta. And Adi Deva includes universal form. Universal form means which contains all the higher planets as well as the demigods. They are Adi Deva. And who is the creator? Lord Krishna is the creator. So Adi Deva includes all the higher planets as well as the demigods. Then Adi Yajna, who is the enjoyer of the sacrifice. We have read this earlier also in chapter 6 and 7 also, that Adi Yajna is Lord's Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Vishnu. Sometimes, sacrifice is performed for pleasure of Lord Indra. Sometimes it is performed for Vishnu. But who is Vishnu? Vishnu is none other than Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna is the Adi Purush, or Yajna Purush we call him, and where does he reside? He resides in our heart as a super soul. So we know that Krishna is present in our body or heart as a super soul. So now the next question, the seventh question was, where does this Adi Purush or Adi Yajna reside? He resides in our heart as a super soul. So these 7 questions are answered by Lord Krishna, and then in 2 verses, and then Lord says in how to remember Krishna at the time. He says that remember, this is very difficult. It is very difficult. We know at the time of death, our memory, mind, our material body, they are all in distress. They are all clouded, or they are in a state of fogging. So we do not remember anything at that time. And random thoughts come. Whatever thoughts we have sustained through entire life, those thoughts come to the come at the time when one is leaving body. So, but remembering Krishna, if we have remembered Krishna all through our life, through chanting, through devotional service, through other means or association of pure devotees, then only we can remember Krishna at the time of death. Otherwise, there are many, sometimes people live in a very bad condition. maybe a trauma, an accident, or sometime injury, or in a coma, then how to remember Krishna? But Krishna says in Nectar of Instructions, don't worry. In the last verse, he says, I will remember what you have done for me. So this is a great assurance from Lord Krishna himself. And even there was King Kulshekara. He used to pray to Krishna that, Lord, when I am healthy and my mind is active and alert, please end my life. Give me death at this moment, because at the time of death, my mind will be flogged. My mind will have no clear thought process. My body will be ailing, or probably it will not be fit to remember you, Krishna. So please remember, take my life. So there had been devotees, pure Vaishnavas like King Kulsekara also. So Lord says that these are 8 questions are answered. So 7 questions have to be understood clearly. Brahma is the spirit or the jiva, or the soul which is residing in the material body. It is eternal, indestructible. We know that Atma is, or soul is not, does not get killed. Adhyatma is the nature of the soul, which is carried from birth, from one life form to another life form. And karma are the fruitive activities which bind us, and they are the cause of our repeated birth and death. And Adi Bhuta is the material. Bhuta means all the material manifestation of Prakriti that Lord has created through his inferior energy. And Adi Deva, all the superior planets or higher planets, along with the demigods, they are Adi Deva. And Adi Yajna is the supreme personality of God himself, who is present in the heart of a devotee as super soul or Paramatma. And where does Adi Yajna reside? Of course, he resides in our heart. So these 7 questions have to be understood. In detail, we shall go to this last question, how to remember Krishna at the time of death, which is a very difficult. That is why Lord Krishna is taking 20 verses to explain to Arjuna how to remember Krishna at the time of death. Yes, Chanda Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Param Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate Bhutabhavo Bhavakar Karo Visargah Karma Sangitah. The Supreme Lord said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called the Self. Action pertaining to the development of these material bodies is called karma or fruitive activities. Hare Krishna.
That did not need any explanation. We have already seen this in last. And this picture shows how the living entity is passing into a cycle of birth and death. You know, the person a fetus is here, the baby is born, they grows, sustains for some times, gets old, there is old age, disease, and ultimately death, and then again rebirth. And this is how this cycle is continuing like this. And this is result of our karma or fruitive activities, because we are all the time binding ourselves with our karmas. So Lord has answered, who is Brahma? The living entity is Brahman. Eternal nature is of the Swabhav is the self. Action pertaining to development material body, that is fruitive activities. So and you can see here in this all picture that we, whatever Swabhav we attain during our lifetime, that is what happens at the end of the time. That you can see this hog or pig is indiscriminate and eating. That person is in mode of passion, eating meat and drinks, and some mode in passion or too much attachment, illicit sex. And some devotees are there, and there are pure souls also, and there are devotees who are worshipping Lord. Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Yes, Prabhuji.
8.4.
Hare Krishna. Adhibhutam ksharo bhavaha पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियज्ञो अहमेव वात्र देहे देहे भृताम्बर. Physical nature is known to be endlessly mutable. The universe is the cosmic form of the Supreme Lord, and I am that Lord represented as the super soul dwelling in the heart of every embodied being. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you, Mata. Physical nature, now Adibhuta. Physical nature is known to be endlessly mutable. Constant change is going on. Just now we saw in this earlier slide that the constant change is going on in the material body. So this is material nature. In fact, Prakriti is also changing every time. And this picture signifies, how the caterpillar, egg, larva, caterpillar, pupa, and ultimately butterfly. The eggs always, or the egg larva always keeps on imagining itself in the form of a butterfly, and that is what it becomes. That means whatever we do in our entire life period, that is what we become in the end, at the time of leaving body. So you can see this transformation, how it is going. This transformation is under the entire material nature of Prakriti is undergoing constant transformation. And the universe is the cosmic form, Adi Daivam. The universe is the cosmic form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I am that Lord represented as Super Soul. And this, then Adi Yajna, who is the Adi Yajna, he said, the Lord says that I am Adi Yajna. We know Vishnu is a Yajna Purush, or Krishna is the Vishnu. Is the Yajna Purush. Where does he reside? He resides in the heart of every living entity as Super Soul of Paramatma. So 7 questions have been answered. Now second section deals with the remembering Krishna at the time of death. One attains whatever one remembers at the time of death. Can anybody recollect some instances from Shastra where people attain, the great souls attained the body they were very attached to? Can anybody remember that one story, even one instance?
Hare
Ajamila.
Krishna Prabhuji, Bharat Maharaj.
Bharat Maharaj. Yes, Mata, very nice. But because he was so attached to deer, so he became next life he became deer. And then his consciousness remained. He was all aware during 3 phases of his life, or 3 births. He remembered everything of first birth, second birth, and third birth also. That is Jad Bharat also. So one attains whatever one remembers at the time of death. And second example, anyone else would like to answer? Second example. What about Ajamila? Ajamila remembered Narayana at the time of death. By default, it was the name of his youngest son, though. But he remembered Narayana because he was so attached to Narayana, or his younger son. He was born at a very late stage of his life, maybe in 70s or 80s. He got this child, so he was very, very attached. So he remembered Narayana by default, but Vishnu Dut came to take him, and also Yam Dut also came. And Krishna recommends Arjuna to undeviatingly meditate on him, undeviatingly. That means without any deviation, without any wavering of thought other than Krishna. So meditation on Krishna, dedicate his activities to him, and thus attain him. So the formula is very simple, sounds very simple, but very different. Constant meditation of Lord Krishna, his name, his form, his pastimes, his attributes, they have to be meditated upon. And then one who attains, one who does such meditation, single-pointed meditation, or Kevalam Bhakti, only then he attains Krishna or reaches Goloka Vrindavan. Yes, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Antakaale cha mameva smaran muktava kalevaram yah prati cha madbhavam yati nasatyatra sanshayah. And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attained my nature. Of this there is no doubt.
This is a very important shloka, and I request all of you to please memorize it. Ant kale cha maveva स्मरण मुक्त्वा कलेवरम यह प्रयाति समद्भावम यति नास्ति अत्र संशय yati nasti atra sansaya. There is no doubt in this. Yah prayati samadbhava. He attains my nature. Smaranam antkale chamame. Smaranam mukta. One person who at the time of death remembers me. Mukta kalibram, that is at the time of leaving body, one who remembers me, he attains my nature. Of there is no doubt. And we know Vishnu Pitama is lying here. He did not leave his body. Or another, there may be another reason, but the main reason was he wanted to have a darshan of Krishna, because he and Pandavas, in the last yesterday we learned that Pandavas and Bhishma Pitama and some others also knew that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and this is again, his statement is again supported by case of Ajamila and the case of the Bharat Maharaj also. This was a beautiful verse, and Kale Chamame Vismaram. Please remember, try to memorize it. Yes, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's a quotation is given here to support what happens at the time of death. Yes, Mataji. Then next, who would like to read after Chanda Mataji? Please raise your hand. Yes, Chanda. Yes, please continue.
Ahanya ahani bhutani gachanti hayamalayam sheshah sheshah stavaram icchanti kim ascharyam atah param. Hundreds and thousands of living entities. Just a minute, Prabhuji. Hundreds and thousands of living entities meet death at every moment, but a foolish living being nonetheless thinks himself deathless and does not prepare for death. This is the most wonderful thing in the world. Hare Krishna.
So can you describe this picture also, Mataji?
This is Pandava, that Yaksha, somewhere in the Mahabharata, where they have they need to answer the prashna of asked by the Yaksha, and Yudhishthira, he is the person who answered all the question, and the rest four brothers were not able to answer, or they died drinking the water. I just remember few, not the clear.
Yes,
It's clear.
very true, Mataji. It is the perfect. We read this story when we were in our childhood here. I think everybody would remember this thing. So this story is, as Mataji said, Yudhishthira and brothers, Pandava brothers, they were in forest. Yudhishthira got thirsty. He was hungry as well. Then he asked Nakul, and then Sahadev, and then Bhim, and then last Arjun to fetch water. The first Nakul goes to a lake, or rather pond. As soon as he starts taking water, then a voice calls him, "Don't drink this water. You will get killed. First, you have to answer my questions before you drink." Nakul ignored. Then he took water. As soon as he took water, he fell down on the ground and he died. And there are same fate happened with the Nakul, then Sahadev, then thereafter Bhim, and also Arjuna. They also ignored. And now Yudhishthira was worried why these brothers have not returned. He went to search for these brothers, and then he found that all were lying dead. He also went to the lake, and he challenged that, "Who are you? Why my brothers are dead here? And why don't you show yourself to me over here?" He said, "I am the Yaksha or who was the owner of that lake or pond. He said, first you have to answer. They did not answer. They ignored my advice and they took my water and drank my water, so they got killed. Now you have to answer him. That Yudhishthira put a condition that if I answer all questions correctly, then please revive my brothers. So he agrees, and then 10 questions are asked, and one of these questions is here. What is the most wonderful thing in the world? That the answer which he gave, Yudhishthira, this is the part of the translation of this verse. Hundreds and thousands of living entities are dying at every moment, but a foolish living entity nonetheless thinks himself deathless. He thinks that, oh, this is Shamshan Vairagya. All of us know when somebody is dead and we go to Shamshan, or the cremation ground, then we are very, very sad. As soon as we come out of the ground and mingle with other persons, we forget that, oh, this person has gone. We forget that one day I myself may also be meeting the same end. So he does not prepare for death. And in fact, death is the final examination. On day-to-day basis, we are appearing in many, many examinations. Many, many difficult situations are coming, and we are coming out through them, or we are succumbing to those circumstances. But what are we preparing so that no problems come? We are not preparing. So for the final examination, we have to do a lot of preparation. Similarly, the death is also final examination, and final examination has to be passed with honors. And that how can we pass it with honors? By doing devotional service, constant chanting, constant thinking of Krishna, constantly serving him, constantly using our senses and all material objects in the service of Lord. That is the preparation for. And last is remembering Krishna, because it is very difficult, as just now we mentioned the example of King Kulshekara, that he wanted to die when he was healthy, so that he could remember Krishna, because he was very conscious at that time. But at the time of death, everybody knows what shall be our status, whether we'll be in a state of coma, or our memory will be lost, or there will be severe pain, or maybe there was too much attachment to physical articles or objects, or somebody close to us. So at that time, shall we be able to think of Krishna at all? That is the preparation for final examination. He says that it is a fool persons who think that they are going to die. Now, Richa Jan Mataji, you raised your hand. Please continue. Thereafter, Swayam Prabha Mataji.
Yes,
Richa Jan
Prabhuji.
Mataji. Yes.
Yam yam vapi smran bhavam tyajatante kalevaram tam tame veti kontaya sada tad bhav bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers, when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail.
So this example is shown here. Bharat Maharaj, you can see, he remembered how who will take care of the deer, because he was so dear to his heart. So dear, he got the same life. And the earlier picture also, the life of a hog, of a person in passion, person in ignorance, we have seen, and whatever one. And even there in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned, if one is fond of keeping himself exposed, not wearing proper clothes, then he, in the next verse, he gets a life of a tree, the life form of tree, because tree does not wear clothes, tree is always naked. So yam yam vap, this is another very good shloka, and we must try to memorize also. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajyante kalevaram tam tam eveti konteya sada tad bhav bhavita. Whatever whatever state of mind one has at the time of living body, he attains the same kind of form at the time of living body, in the next form of life. So how to remember? Now the question comes, how to remember Krishna at the time? So there are 4 things which everybody must think of it very seriously. First is constant chanting of Lord's name. Second is doing all activities related for pleasure of satisfaction of Krishna as he desires, that is performing devotional activities. Third is always acting in the mode of goodness. Let us not be in a mode of passion or in a mode of ignorance. Let us act always in the mode of goodness only. And lastly, which we all of us are facing day to day, in fact, basis, we are not tolerant. We are hardly tolerant. In fact, not tolerant, we are hardly tolerant. Uh, We always react to certain situations, certain people, certain remarks, certain circumstances that is instant. So one has to be tolerant like a tree. Tree is said to be one of the most tolerant living entity because you cut it, you water it, you don't water it, you feed it, you take care of it, you nurture it. Whatever we do, that the tree tolerates, simply tolerates. Uh, ju- Sorry, Hare Krishna. So these are four things which one has to consider: constant chanting of holy name, performing all activities for the pleasure of Krishna, utilizing all sense organ, no self-satisfaction, self-sense gratification, but for pleasure of Krishna, that is devotional activities, loving devotional activities. Fourth is acting always in mode of goodness. And lastly, be very, very tolerant. So now we have seen that how can we remember Krishna at the time? If we are doing this kind of practice, we will definitely remember Krishna at that time of the death. And what is the advantage of chanting? We had been talking always about chanting. Chanting is very important. Chanting, by chanting, we are remembering the name, form, attributes, and the pastimes of Lord Krishna. We are chanting. That means our mind, tongue, and ears, they are all engaged in the service of Krishna. Then when one is constantly meditating on the name, form, attributes, and the pastimes, and chanting holy name, then one is sure to attain Krishna and reach the Krishna Loka. So, and this is the example we just now had in the picture, that caterpillar is always thinking of becoming a butterfly, and ultimately it becomes a butterfly or assumes the form of butterfly. So thoughts in this life are very important. The thoughts, they are reflection, our reflection at the time of leaving our body. Whatever we think, that thought becomes dominant, predominant in our mind at the time of leaving body. So we must remember Krishna while doing our even any prescribed duty. That is also service to Lord Krishna. So this is yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajanti kalevaram tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tadbhav bhavita. One becomes what he thinks at the time of leaving body. And this is example. I will not go into detail. You can know that how Bharat Maharaj retrieved this fawn or the baby deer from the lake because there was a roar of lion, and the mother deer out of fear gave birth to this fawn in the middle of the stream. Bharat Maharaj, who had left all his kingdom and divided his kingdom into four sons, he in fact retrieved his fawn and brought it up, and was so attached that he lost meditation on or performing sacrifices and concentration on chanting, and ultimately what happened we all of us know. So this is yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Yes, Richa Mataji.
अभ्यासयोग युक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परम पुरुषम दिव्यम याति parthanuchintayana. He who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path. Hey, who Partha is sure to reach me.
Thank you, Mataji. So that means he who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path. The path. That is most important. Without any deviation. In fact, let us take, we are mundane, in fact, and we are very fallen souls. Say, if we have to get up in the Brahma Muhurti, say alarm is at 4:20 or say 4 o'clock, then alarm goes, we get up, but want to remain in bed for 5 minutes. 5 minutes become 20 minutes. So 20 minutes become sometimes 30, we go to sleep, and then it is already very late to attend Mangala Aarti at 4:30 in the temple. So the mind is very, very, deviating. It is flickering. It is not constantly devoted at one particular object or purpose. So what we have to do mentally, physically, and intellectually at all three levels, we have to think of Krishna always. That is how we can keep him remembering at every time, every moment. Undeviated from Parth, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. Now, there are a couple of examples. The chanting. Chanting, say, if you have decided you will do 4 rounds or you will do 8 rounds or 16 rounds, please do it at a fixed time always. Don't move it, shift it, keep on shifting it. Anyway, sometimes you may not be able to complete your rounds at the particular time. Divide your rounds in 2 phases, in the morning and the evening, right? Or if for any reason one day is missed completely, please complete your yesterday's round today, whatever you are. That means if you are doing 8 rounds or 16 rounds, then you have to do 30 to 16 or 32 rounds on the second day which you have missed. So this is without deviation. Offering bhoga to Krishna, offering prasadam, then eating prasadam only, keeping Ekadashi fast. So these are path of a spiritual progress which we should not deviate from. So we should be constantly engaged in these activities. So this, Mataji, you can, I'll keep on, changing the slide. You can read. Now this is a graphic representation of how, yes, Mataji, please read.
Attaining the Supreme. Lord has
Your voice is missing, Mataji. Perhaps some net problem. Richa Jain, Mataji, are you there? Anyway, Swayam Prabha Mataji, would you like to continue?